Delighted to be here with Kresse Wesling MBE, who is a co-founder of Elvis and Kresse, a phenomenal company that produces the most beautiful luxury goods out of waste. And this beautiful headquarters in a mill on the side of a lovely lake. Tell me a little bit more about the beginning, where this all started.
When I came to London in 2004, I was keen on exploring a new opportunity. So I'm only ever really interested as a tourist in two things, waste and the other is food. So I want to go to the grocery store, I want to see what people are buying, what people are eating, but I want to go to the landfill site as well and see where we've broken down and where we are failing. And what really surprised me when I arrived in London was that in that year, 100 million tons of material went to landfill. In 2005, a chance meeting with the London Fire Service, and they were telling me about all their environmental problems, and one of them was the fire hose. And of course, the fire hose is not a huge problem in the grand scheme of 100 million tons. But what it was a problem of the size that I felt I could solve. And I took 2 hoses home that day, and I took them to Elvis, and I said, look, this is what we're going to do. And he sort of said, what do you mean we? You know, it was amazing. So beautiful. This rich, lustrous red, and it's life-saving material. And it's already, some of it, 25 years old. And you think about the history and the life that it's had, and you think about the life that it could have, and it's going to the ground. And it's not doing anything for the fire service. I said, well, if I can do anything with this material, I'm going to give you half. And they thought this was hysterical, like half of what? Half of what? But 10 years later, we are the longest standing corporate donor to the firefighters charity.
That's fantastic. I mean, it really is.
Well, it's funny because we're a corporate.
Yeah.
That's what I find really funny about it. A lot of people said, oh, you're so lucky that, you know, you got fire hose. And I said, well, I could have chosen other materials. But the reason why the fire hose was so compelling to me was because I knew it would be compelling to other people. When you start telling that story, that is what changes people's perception of raw materials. So we had a customer in the early years from Brazil, and I remember he bought something from us, and we didn't hear from him for 3 or 4 months. Then he called and he said, what else can I do, you know? I've got this bag, but what else can I do? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, environmentally. And we were on the phone for 2.5 hours. We ended up talking about boat showers and how you could use less water. And it was just hysterical. And I thought, his pathway to becoming an environmentalist was one of our belts. That's fantastic. This is insane, yeah.
What is it about your upbringing? You referenced your childhood, where you grew up, you know, something about your personal drive to make a difference.
You know, I grew up in Western Canada. We had recycling in my childhood. So when I first came to London, and there wasn't, in lots of boroughs in London, there wasn't recycling, I found it absolutely uncivilized and completely bizarre. My grandparents had a huge influence on me, and in their generation, they did not produce waste. They had outdoor toilets, they had any textile that they got their hands on would have been used as clothing, then reused as something else, then reused as something else, and reused as something else, until literally the fibers disintegrated. And even now, I have a quilt on one of my beds that my great-grandmother made from scraps of old clothing. And we're still using it. It's not hung on a wall, it's in use. How did we go from that appreciation of raw material to really not caring about it? And it's because we became this linear society where we would dig things out of the ground, make it into something, and then throw it away. It's a, you know, take, make, waste.
Cherish and nurture and love things.
And I think we've lost respect for the earth. We've lost respect for each other. We've lost respect for the whole thing. When I saw the fire hose, I thought I can address all of those issues with this one material.
When you describe the waste products that you use and turn into something beautiful, you use wonderful language and imagery, so we can really see that and feel that. Tell me more about how that happens when you see something that many of us wouldn't give a second glance, and you can see its future.
I did politics at university, so I think maybe I'm just very political about materials. And the reason I didn't go into politics is that I'm very single-minded and dictatorial, and I really like democracy, so I would kind of fail in that environment, right? So I think that I get angry at the radio, and I'm obsessed about things being better. Although when we started 10 years ago, I think pretty much everyone thought we were crazy, and people who didn't think we were crazy thought we were quirky. And then you know, then suddenly we were in vogue in 2009, and then suddenly we became just avant-garde maybe. But we're still out there. We're still pushing the boundary.
Yeah,
We're not.
absolutely.
We're not in any stretch a traditional luxury business. But why be traditional? We just aren't conventional about anything. We always think, what can we do here? How can we make this better? Or when we don't really think about rules in respect to our own life. You know, we've been together for 15 years and we're not married and we don't have children. We don't follow any of the standard pathways that people expect. You know, people talk about having a live-work balance, and we don't. We have
life.
We have life, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of work involved in our life.
Yeah.
And even when we go home from our work, which is 21 steps that way, we take our laptops with us and we keep going.
Yeah, of
because
course.
what else would you do if you have this goal to first solve the Firehose problem, which we did by 2010. We were sustainably doing that. And now to solve the world's leather waste problem. Well, there's no rest from that.
Tell me about where your inspiration comes from.
The inspiration comes from the problem and simultaneously where I think the world needs to be. So if I think of where that material is now and where I would rather that material be, I don't think you need more inspiration than that, or I don't. And then you just think of all the little side benefits you can have. Oh, apprentices, donations to the firefighter charity, all these things, all these little wonderful pockets of happiness and joy that can happen.
Do you think there's an element, I don't know, it's in your upbringing or, you know, as you say, in your drive, in your single-mindedness around following your passion?
I have to just be grateful to my parents. I always had crazy ideas, which they always supported. When I left university, I went to Hong Kong, and this insane venture capital, wonderful woman offered me a job at a dinner. And I remember calling my dad saying, should I take this job? And he was like, yeah, this is great because, hey, you know, who thought you would go there for a couple of weeks and get a job? And when I decided I actually really wanted to start my own business, I remember talking to my family and all of my friends and said, yeah, I think I'm going to start this business. And no one said, I was 23 years old. No one said, you're too young, you have no money, how are you going to make this work? You have no experience. People said, great idea, cheaper than an MBA. Do you want some office space? Do you need a bit of capital? Do you want to live with me for a bit and save some money on rent? And then certainly Elvis has allowed all of this madness to happen because I am very much like the crazy one, and he is the structural wrapper that goes around that ensures we pay our taxes, that products arrive on time, that the courier has collected a parcel and will deliver a parcel, and that everything is immaculate and wonderful and amazing. I've always had an amazing support. So I don't think that comes from me. I think that comes from the absolute dumb luck of being surrounded by amazing people. You do need to go out and find people who will be your cheerleaders and who will be your backers and who will come over for a bottle of wine on a Friday night when it's all gone horribly wrong. Yeah. You know, whatever it is that you need, or who will take you for a run or a cycle ride or things like that.
Yeah.
Because you do need support, and if you don't have it, go and find it.
Yeah.
In 2007, WWF commissioned a study, and they looked at every single major luxury brand and graded them on their environmental and ethical performance, and nobody was getting more than a C+.
Really?
And I remember looking at that thinking, goodness, these are the people who have the history, who understand the provenance, who do work with craftspeople and cherish the materials. Where is this breaking down?
And tell me more about the Burberry Foundation.
It's really exciting for us because we had been looking into leather waste for a couple of years, and mostly because people were calling us. And I thought, my goodness, between 5 phone calls, this is adding up to a lot of material. So we started doing research on how big is the global problem, where is the global problem, what does it look like, what does it consist of, what is the nature of this material. And it is, you know, freshly tanned and dyed leather that just falls to the cutting room floor. And it falls to the cutting room floor because no matter how carefully you map your patterns, a cow is not the same shape as a car seat. A cow is not the same shape as a handbag. So you will have these offcuts. You also have offcuts sometimes because of a mosquito bite or a fence scratch or a stretch mark, something like that. And I brought this box of leather home really in the early days of this research to Elvis, and this is generally how our creative dynamic works. So I bring home a box of a problem, I put it in the house, right in the middle of the floor, and I say, you know, this is we got to fix this. And my brief was like, it's got to be DIY, it's got to be circular, which means you have to design for deconstruction. So you have to make sure that you can put it together and take it apart, and put it together and take it apart, and you can repair it over time and things like that. And it has to be fun, it has to be engaging, it has to create a solution for 800,000 tons. And Elvis came up with these 3 shapes that you can make use of the smallest bits of scrap to effectively weave whole new hides. And of course it was genius, because he's extremely clever. And the first thing that we did were rugs, and the rugs started to really sell without any effort. And we thought, there's some real potential here. And then we got a call from the impact team at Burberry, and they said, we'd really love to chat with you about the solution that you've got for leather, and how can we address this major market failure, and how can we sort of foster the makers movement and the circular economy and achieve all these wonderful things. And you know, what does that look like? How could we work together? You know, it's a sort of David and Goliath situation.
Yeah, well, yes.
And we spent about 2 years thinking it through until we came up with a plan that we think will work. And it's a 5-year partnership. I'm excited about their courage. They want to celebrate this material as much as we do.
Which is fantastic.
They want to celebrate this solution as much as we do. They want to be a part of changing the future for this material, which is just amazing. We're all about sort of multiple positive benefits, how much we can reclaim, how much we can give away, and what other things we can do. So for this, it's apprenticeships and work experience and, you know, public engagement around the circular economy. I'm doing an event at Oxford University in a week's time where we're going to crowd make a rug. Fantastic. While explaining to people what circular economy looks like in a luxury context. Awesome. It's an incredible opportunity to do that. And then 50% of the profits from the leather rescue project will go to renewable energy projects. Oh, okay. And we always have a link between the raw material and the cause. Cattle is a major contributor to climate change. You know, the meat industry, the methane, the things biggest, like this. Yeah, it's quite big, and the transport associated with it. And we can't deliver a circular economy unless we're all using renewable energy. And the proliferation of renewables, although it's escalating now, it's not fast enough. And for me, you know, if Elvis and we've committed to giving quite a substantial amount of money away, it has to be in things that are going to have also an impact and going to do really wonderful things and really make us feel great and fantastic, because that's part of the whole karma thing, and sleeping well at night and not relying on Horlicks or whatever. So it has to be something we're really excited about, and we are incredibly excited about renewable energy.
You're so passionate about what you do, about changing the world, actually.
I'm not here to be a bystander. Life is really short.
No, you're definitely not one of them.
I want to get involved in it. You're taught as a young Canadian kid, you have to leave things better than you found them, particularly when you go camping.
Of course.
And so I want to leave the earth better than I found it, and that's really hard.
Tell me about overcoming challenges, you know, those hard days.
2010, we achieved our main goal. We were rescuing all the firehoses. It was brilliant. But we also then had some really horrible things happen in succession. We were homeless, the business was homeless, we had no means of production, and we just lost all this cash. And I just typed into Google, you know, everybody sucks, and why would you set up a business, and I hate this, and giving up and throwing in the towel. And this image came up, the slogan for Assassin's Creed, I don't play video games. And I thought, this is actually the defining moment of the business. If nothing is true and everything is allowed, and we've already rescued all this Firehose, why are we stopping there? We're going to double down on being good. We're going to find more charity partners. We're going to take on more wastes. We're going to give more money away. We're going to employ more underemployed people. We're going to create all kinds of opportunities. We're going to just be the best at being good. That just turned into the best decision we could ever have made. We've developed our own version of like capitalist karma, because what goes around does come around, and because we only are ever intending to do really awesome things, the result is that awesome things generally happen to us. There's one guarantee to lose stimulation in life in general, and it's to do something you don't believe in, to do something you don't care about at all. And why do that when the world is your oyster?
Yes.
When there are all kinds of opportunities. And if you're interested in food, go to all the restaurants around you and see if you can go and do work experience there. If you're interested in manufacturing, go and do the same. If you're interested in being a lawyer, like, there are people, all over the world, if you call them and say, can I come and learn from you? It's very few people are going to say no.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're genuine about it and you show up and you put the time in, people do not say no to that. I mean, we have work experience people here all the time. We had a group of people here come to do work experience as a group en masse. After they left, we had an email from one of them that said, I know that you're about to do some apprenticeships. If you could possibly consider me, I would absolutely love that. She's our first apprentice.
That's fabulous.
It's her initiative.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was her saying, I'm going to come. And Megan, our first apprentice, came for 1 day of work experience. And at the end of that first day, she said, can I come back tomorrow? At the end of the second day, can I come back tomorrow? At the end of 2 weeks, we said, can we sort out apprenticeship here so that we can pay you and stuff? And she's like, are you kidding me? Like, I can work here? The only people I will not help are people who basically want to go in, contribute to more problems that we have. You know, that's not interesting to me. No. But if you genuinely want to solve a problem in the world, there'll be somebody who knows something about that will love to have you around. Yeah. And I think there's a genius lady at Oxford University who calls it apprenticing the problem. Because we have too many people who think, I need to start a business. And actually, you don't necessarily need to do that. If you're obsessed with a particular problem, whether it be waste in the hospital sector or animal rights or the future of sustainable agriculture, whatever it is, there will be people who have amazing pockets of knowledge around. Go and find them and learn from them and understand, how can I best slot my skills into that problem? And maybe you do have to start a business, but maybe you don't.
Listening to you, it's such an inspirational person. There's lots of what next ahead of you, I should think, in terms of the things you're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the craziest one I've got so far, which is, there's a lot of wastewater in the world, and there's a huge lack of fresh water in the world. And I think we are, as a business, we're all about changing people's perceptions of a material. Yes. I would like to make really, really expensive alcohol from wastewater and really, really expensive gin from sewage water. And I'm not sure how I'm going to sell it yet. So I know how to do it. You know, it's in my brain how to do it. I know the technical hurdles we're going to have to overcome. I know, I know probably how much it will cost to do the prototyping, all of that. But how am I going to? I need to bring people with me on that narrative. Otherwise, it falls apart. So I'm still working on the storytelling there.
It's almost, if you talk about, you see your vision, and I get the feeling, just listening to you, that just the way you use words and the way you use imagery, the vision's quite clear. Yeah. But then there's sort of lots of little side streets that you might have to go down on the way to where that place is.
Yes.
Whether it's these beautiful bags or gin out of sewage, that's quite cool, isn't it?
And that's again where the partnership with Elvis is really crucial, because I can explain to him, even in sometimes really bizarre ways, where I want us to go, and he can actually go and deliver that. So when I was saying
he will sort of look at the method, if you like, or the operation from getting this to...
He will understand the critical path that will take us from where we are to where we need to be. He can deliver that, which I don't, because he can see that route through. Yes. Which is why he's a big asset when you're doing DIY and or when you're lost in the woods. Like, all these things, he can sort of, if I go, look, we need to go north, but I have no idea where north is. That's kind of where my vision is. He'll be like, well, it's there.
Thank you so much, Kresse, for sharing your story, your inspiration, your joie de vivre, and I think just that ability that you have to look at something with a story and see its next story. And I think your inspiration for other people just go far and wide.
Thank you.
Thank you.